the map works. Like the map works the way it's supposed to. But if a person doesn't like magic, is there something about the experience of magic that makes that person not want to use it? In regards to the ethics question, I'll get you in a second.
I was going to ask consent, because if the users know they're being tracked, they'll act differently.
Yeah, that's the two ethics and consent questions that came into play. Is it ethics and consent? Yeah. Well, so from the NSA perspective, yes, there's consent. But the thing is that if it's supposed to be something done surreptitiously, assuming you still want to do the project anyway, but if they're doing it surreptitiously, yeah, your job is to be able to come up with a covert method of rebuilding this app so it can be done. But again, that's a valid question. I mean, granted, like before you even get to you, we'll probably sign some non-disclosure agreements. You don't know what you live in or actually have a warrant for information talk. But seriously, no. It gives you an idea of how the client's thinking and what the client wants. And those are kind of things that you should ask. But those questions should be asked. I mean, however, just be aware of who you're talking to. So, does someone else have a question? I missed them. I'm not sure. So, and of course, how much are you getting paid is also a valid question as well. But again, hopefully you've already established that before you get there. So that question is usually the beginning process of a lot of people's questions. Like, I would like to build a dashboard for the medical industry. Like, I would.
Yeah. You said that how much you're getting paid is supposed to already be established before you get there, but how can you really know how much you're getting paid without knowing what you're necessarily going to be doing? You're going through that design process, so to say.
Research. You measure that against what you know you can do, the time allotted, and you recognize one very important factor: your time doesn't come cheap. Like if someone goes, I like to design a website for $500, good for you, go find a WordPress. The reason I say that is you're all paying someone's paying for you to spend a lot of money to be here. Someone wants to use that information, and they want to do an end around the education process so that you do it for them. The concept of them paying you less than that, and I recognize, sometimes you have to make your bones early and you'll take a little bit of a hit, but you do not ever undercut yourself as an employee. Because when I say you're your only advocate, you are your only advocate. It is very rare you will find an employer who goes, you are very experienced, let me give you more money than I think you deserve for this project, and then keep paying you afterwards. So you have to make sure you pay attention to that. Now, a question might be, how do you know what to charge and that kind of thing? There is a book out called the Graphic Artists Guild Guidelines of Ethical Pricing, or somewhere in there. Somewhere with those words in that form, in that order. That basically does research study regionally of what people are being paid for particular things, and they've expanded it to UX, information architecture, and that kind of thing. As a designer, that is a godsend. It gives you an idea. It's not you don't use that as the end all be all as your pricing guides, but use that as a basis for it. Another site to check: the Bureau of Labor Statistics. It lists like what people are being paid for specific jobs. And as a freelancer, a designer, in the business world, people seem to think that because we're designers, we're flighty, and the concept of business and money is beyond us. It's not. It matters more to us because no one knows your field better than you. And you walk into a room and you have, say, a CEO who's all tech and a CFO who's all business and accounting, and a few other a few others who are just pretty much there to street the admin. They don't know your field, so you have to walk in there with solid confidence in what you want. Yeah, so, and like I said, now how does that apply? Now I'm just going to apply that back to UX. Like I said, it's a brand new field. There are some data information about it, but I'm going to do a quick breakdown of what a UX designer has to have in his tool shed to be able to work with it. You need to be a visual designer. You need to understand information architecture. architecture. Information hierarchy is also invaluable. Developing user profiles, user personas, and user modes, which I'll talk about in the next second, which basically is user research. Now, this may not all be you, but you have to be aware of this. You have to understand big data, information analysis, information visualization. And then now imagine if someone comes up to you and goes, I'm going to pay you $15 an hour to do that. Does that even sound remotely fair to you? Now, what you have to remember is that you are the only one who knows what all that is. So you have to go, this is what we're doing. Even for something as simple as I would like to redesign your website, it's not a redesign of your website because they're bringing you in because their website is broken, it doesn't work. Like, they are not getting the views they want, they're not getting the traffic they want. They want you to make it slicker, cleaner, popper, make the information work much better for them. Everything I just mentioned is what goes into that. Like, you have to understand who they're going, who the clientele they want to draw in. Why do they want, how to make the clientele stay on the site. How to arrange the information to make the client want to keep digging, diving deeper into it. And all that stuff isn't something you just go, draw me a website. So, now, I mentioned user personas and user modes and user profiles. Side note, there's a bit of a discussion going on as to whether or not the idea of user personas is a proper term to use anymore because the user makes, user personas presumes beforehand that person will only use that app for one particular thing, or at least have one particular mode in their head while they're using it. Like if someone has an iPad, that assumes that they're only going to use it to check email. Ever. It does not go to the fact that use the Fandango app to buy me movies because I like it, and that kind of thing. The concept of user modes is more of a concept of at this particular time, this is what you'll be thinking. This is the second thing you'll want to do. This may be a tertiary thing you'll want to do as well. I've actually come up with code names for these kind of experiences. One thing I have is called Magellan mode, which is the explorer. Goes in, doesn't really have an idea of what they want, but it's more like him in an amorphous cloud, digging around trying to figure out something, has a general idea of where he wants to go. There is the Captain Ahab mode I have, where it's literally a guy has a set of credentials, a set of query listings. He knows exactly what he wants. What he does. He has an exact heading that he goes. He doesn't know what's there, but he has a vision, a cone, a visual cone of what he wants to do. And then I have what I call the Vince Vaughn mode, which is my old school mode, where it's literally just a guy who always used whatever, and pretty much is just basically trying to make the new thing work the way the old thing did. And your job for him is pretty much just to make it as easy as possible. And you just go, keep trucking along, you'll be fine. And that's usually reserved for people who, like, quote unquote, haven't developed the system to use the machine or use the internet or use data information before they use the computers. Like for me, like where there was no internet. AOL and all those damn discs. Who needs 500 hours? But so that kind of thing. So those are the kind of concepts that really have developed. Because at one point, user personas were it. Like that was kind of I don't want to say it was it, but that was like one of the guiding principles. And all of a sudden now there's an internal argument between user modes and user persona and which one's a more proper concept to use for designing products. Like say, yes.
Oh, which I thought was a storytelling, a storyboard.
Oh.
Like word research.
That's kind of where the argument develops for user persona and user modes, because you can have one user with multiple personalities or multiple modes who uses the quote unquote use the iPad for three different things. And you can't go, I'm developing an iPad for a guy to do three different things, and a guy to use the iPad for these different things, because he may change it to something else. Like my iPad, I used it for, nowadays I use it for a little bit of word processing. And like I said, I wrote my notes on it and using it for presentation, notes, movies, video games sometimes. Those are like they're more exclusively video games. With the storyboards, that depends on how you want to build it. With storyboards, and basically just kind of draw out the experience of what that person, how he's going to use the app. And that can go up and down, around, just what have you. And you need to think of that, and it gets into the blood, it gets money like things like cancel messages, error messages, random things like that. So, we're kind of running short of time, so I'm gonna just open up the floor to questions about anything, UX, business design, or just general, like, as a designer, things you should look out for, or things you want to develop into.
How do you find a job in this field, like in storyboards and stuff? I know there's LinkedIn and like design in general. I know there's LinkedIn and contacts, but
First,
somebody without money, like who hasn't done enough networking yet to have big enough web of people who could recommend, and how do you recommend trying to look for it?
okay, that's actually a good question. First question I was asked is what's the user experience like to find you? Like, do you have a website?
I have a Tumblr that I'm setting up for
What job do you want?
storyboarding.
Are we talking illustrated storyboard or like use case storyboard for user experience?
Illustrated.
Okay, that's a completely different concept. Now, what you need to realize is that as a storyboarder, you need to create a experience where the person comes in, they look at you, and they know you want to do storyboarding, and they need to know about you. Tumblr may not be the best experience to give someone about that, because it doesn't define who you are, it doesn't define your goals, and it doesn't define the role you want for yourself. First step is whenever you create anything, is realizing that if you're an HCI person, a hypermedia person, a designer, recognize the fact that you are basically your first client. And your client's goal is to get a job. So as a client of yourself, what would you want you to do to make you look as good as humanly possible? Because let's face it, if you can't get yourself a job, you just failed your first assignment. So you got to remember that that's the very first step. If you don't have a visual presence, and I don't mean Facebook, and I don't mean Twitter, I mean you need to have a series of experiences from your website, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, the Hans, even Tumblr. They need to know that you exist and that you are around, and that when they get you, they get an experience of this person's on the web. Your exposure is up to you to decide how far you want to get into it, but if you want them to be able to, if you want to be found on multiple access points, that is the very first step. After that, you start your networking in LinkedIn. And then at that point, you have to start doing some online research, which again, as a user experience person, or at the very least, someone who deals in accessibility, making you accessible to whoever, you got to research the field you're in. Because just putting your portfolio out there isn't going to be enough. You need to know where it's, where do storyboarders go. And part of that is just a general Google search. It's just go on Google, storyboarding, and see what comes up. And it's the act of like as I said, you will be surprised that from a client, from a design perspective, being your own client means that you do the work that you do for someone else, but you do it for yourself. It's amazing how good practice that is. Realizing that there's a beginning, there's an end, there's a goal in sight, and you know what your client wants. I mean, this client isn't paying you, so that kind of sucks, but.
So it's an internship essentially.
So, yes. So does that help? Okay. Anything else?
We learn a lot in the classroom, like skills and information, but is there anything that you'd suggest as a developer, as a designer, things to do outside of the classroom, skills you can build up, like when you're at home or whatever?
Mm-hmm. What do you want to learn?
Like I like the idea of the user experience, like research, stuff like that.
Okay. The UX looks a good thing to start, but what you should always do is do research online. Like it's a hard, I know it may sound like a blow off, but the reason being is that because it is a new field, I use that word only because of the fact that it's a relatively new field. But because it's a new field, there's no place you can go, like, you can't go to, like, say, you know, Stanley, you can't come here and go, hey, they have a UX track, I was take like 10 weeks to do there, do that. You're gonna have to build your curriculum, like, you have to really go online, figure it out, like, get research. It is, I say that this is one of those fields that, as a designer, you have the luxury of evolving and developing your entire employment path. You can. When I said I went from web design to UX, it wasn't overnight. It took me 3 or 4 years to get into the field, recognize what was needed, and teach myself the specific skill sets. And it wasn't a technical skill like I needed in Photoshop, Illustrator, or even Balsamic, or those kind of skills. It was literally, what does it take to be a UX person, and then learn that skill set. Learn the ability to be able to walk into a room. And don't get me wrong, I am not great at it. Like, I'm still learning. While I'm great at the visual design part of it, the actual research part is still difficult. Or be able to, like, take data that comes in, how do you translate that? Like, that is the thing you have to do. Like, then the thing is, it builds on itself, so a lot more your research. Like I said, look for, like, Lynda.com, is a pretty interesting resource. I would check out their site if you think it has something that might maybe give it a shot. They have a monthly subscription.
It's a subscription for the university.
Okay, yeah. I would start using that as much as possible. And it's a good start, because that's a good place to start. Don't get me wrong, it may not be the best place, but it will definitely give you some good foundation. And like I said, I can't stress enough when I say that as a designer, never stop learning stuff. Like, never stop. Your field never stops changing. At one point, I'm pretty sure people thought HTML and then XHTML was pretty much all we would ever need because of its brilliance. And then someone goes, "Oh, HTML5, it's so much nicer." And then there's CSS, and then again, CSS3 can be like. Be flexible enough to know that you will end up having to learn. But keep in mind, the new development is why these fields have changed. Like the information architecture, ability to label, prioritize, add hierarchy, and have the ability to understand that this person's understanding of information, while it's specific, you can guess what that is and give them what they want. But again, that's a lesson you learn, and it is not that quick. But be patient with yourself, recognize that you have the luxury of being able to be like cheap and board. I did mine on the ground, so it's kind of. I mean, it was still fun. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it, and I'm still enjoying it. But it's definitely, like I said, you have the soul gift that you never do it.
If you were in a position of hiring, what would be one or two qualities that you would find in a candidate that would make you want to have on this conversation?
You get stuff for it. One of the things I want is someone who's always hungry. A lot of places, and even if not a lot of places, but a lot of places believe in the concept of return on investment. So I don't believe that all of us will ever be at one job for like the next 40 years. However, if you go into a job and you tell them that you really want this job and you want to change, you're going to develop your skills to make sure you're a better employee for this job, most places will gladly take you. They know you may not stay long, but they know the time you're there, they will not regret hiring you. Because they know that the work you put in is 110%. And that's what they want to hear. The other stuff, like, that's like how you stay there, whether or not it's going to be what you like, that comes later. But by and large, they want someone who's enthusiastic, but they're also gung-ho about themselves, that the work that they will bring to people will make them better. And if you're going to take that job, know that if you take it, you're going to need to get better, and the job should make you want to get better for it. It's not, I don't think that happens all the time, but it's a pretty good start. So, yes. And yes.
So, how do you try to find middle ground between design aesthetics and functionality? And they don't always join.
The only hope you have is using information on your side. You do the best you can, and you basically explain to them exactly why it doesn't work, and you do a bunch of case studies, and you tell them this is why it doesn't work. And if they listen to you, that's great. If they don't listen to you, then you kind of go from there. But the middle ground is generally what will work. And that may mean a couple of iterations, a couple of tests, a couple of like an actual full-blown use case, which we mock up and is shown. But by and large, it's case specific as to whether or not it works, yes or no. Sometimes that, but if you get enough experience points where like you get on them and they recognize your skill and they recognize this is what you mean and true, it'll always work out. It'll work out quickly. But that takes a while to develop. And that's rapport between your client and your employer.
Just to kind of fill in this question, do you have a tool that you use for that cross-browser testing?
No,
So a
and
lot of
don't.
functionality and design combined?
Whatever works. That's the rule. Don't just think there's one tool for it. Just always think that this works. Is there anything else out there? Like I used to use, for example, Balsamiq for all my wireframes, storyboarding, the user experience for my app, product, what have you. I stopped using Balsamiq because while it still worked great, it did not improve what I needed. It didn't do what I needed to do all the time. And I got tired of doing workarounds. I developed another way to do it. For actual physical demos, I used to use Flash a lot. Just it wasn't like an actual thing, but I needed like a quick walkthrough. And then I found something on Marvel, which is a online demoing tool that basically lets you build basically from Photoshop out, turn it into a fully mobile, fully active demo that you can actually look at online. So yeah, there is no one specific tool. I mean, you will find tools that you like a lot, but it becomes personal preference at a certain point because, truth be told, your employer, you don't want to care about how the sausage is made. As long as it gets made, they like it. Pretty good. So, yeah.
So, but in terms of the FCM, US, we learn about more user interviews, case studies, and we do know that we cannot put all the methods of research into one project. So, like when you face the does it come to you like automatically based on this project, or you have to have a discussion with
It's our personal.
Can you
preference.
repeat the question? That was very quiet.
Okay. Question you asked is when you're doing user interviews, user experience, doing user research, and you had one method for one particular product, and you go to a new product, can you use that exact same methodology? Yes and no. It's always going to be case specific. There are some things that work out well. Like one of the problems I'm having right now is that one of my products is used by a government, and it's used by a corporation, but all of their stuff is business sensitive. So I'm not allowed to see how the product is used. So I have one of the rough experiences of that I don't know what the person is doing. I send out statements, I send out questionnaires to fill this out, but it doesn't give you a feed on what you need to do. Or it doesn't give me a good feed because, like, honestly, watching a person actually use the product tells you a lot more than just them filling out a questionnaire. But sometimes you kind of feel that way and you have to work out the way. There are things called proxy users, or people who actually are allowed to see it, and they do analog research, and you basically follow them. That's about as close as you can get. But by and large, the process itself isn't a one-way tool to tell you that. So every process is new. So an interesting question that someone asked a while back was, so I'm a designer, do I still do comics? Yes, I do. The reason being is that because comics are probably the most simplest user experience that you get to create. Because to draw a comic, it has to identify the person, character, and it has to identify what the project they're doing. So if they can't recognize what you're doing, it doesn't work out. So being a user experience person, it's actually made my illustration, comic stuff, a lot more deliberate and stronger statement in the comment. So, and that's what user experience also does to you, because it also starts making you assessing things around you as to whether or not it's a good experience, like Starbucks, or, a movie, or just, anything done by Vin Diesel. Sorry, I'm back. But yeah, that kind of stuff. So. Question? You have one? No. Okay.
All right, well, we're about out of time, so I'd like to say thank you to Philip for coming and giving us time. Especially as he gets on a plane tomorrow, he has 5 hours in DC and then he flies to California to work, so.
All right, oh wait, I have a grand prize for us somewhere.
Oh, go on.
Okay, user experience question. How would you guess what my favorite number was? Okay, that's one question. Next. Okay.
Is it the golden number?
Okay. Good answer? No.
I'll ask you. I can't ask you.
That's the answer.
That wins the
Literally,
grand prize.
that's a user experience question. Like literally, it's the basic question is, what is it? So, it's gonna be funny if I actually don't have it in here. I'm just gonna feel really stupid. Oh, found it. Sweet. Here.
Win the prize.
I don't want to throw it.
I'm pretty sure I would kill 2 people along
Whoa.
Thank you very much for that. So yeah, so that last little exercise is basically ask as many questions, and sometimes the most basic questions are all you really need.
What is your favorite?
The contest is over.
I really want to know.
All right.
What I really want to know is, do the bakers wear spike heels or wait stuff?
We're going out drinking later. You need to find me, and I'll tell you the whole story behind it.
Yeah, we'll be in the bistro later for about 5 o'clock if anyone wants to join us and talk more to Philip. And you're welcome to hang around and ask him questions if you want.
Not like I'm going anywhere.
What's the question?